So we're looking at that camera, are we? Yeah.
Well, this is the camera that's recording, but you can just address the room.
Just the room. Okay.
So if you could just enunciate what you want to make sure we pick up.
No pressure.
And equally for yourselves as well when you ask me questions.
So are we ready to go? Yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me kick off. First of all, thank you for coming to this press briefing to discuss the financial aid mission visit for 2023. I want to say my thanks to Adam, but also to Ben, who's joined Adam throughout, for coming to St Elena. To reiterate, the purpose of the FAM is not to negotiate a settlement. It is to gather evidence, to understand how we can advocate for St Elena in the broader round of the overseas development aid. I think the key thing, of course, is if you're going to gather evidence, you need to have a good evidence set to gather from, and we've done everything possible to get a wide range of people in front of Ben and Adam. That, of course, was challenged somewhat by the delayed flight. First of all, I'll pay tribute to their resilience in keep going and working as some part from the airport in Johannesburg when we were doing virtual links, but then we really crammed in the program. Which leads me to say thank you to all the people who put that program together and who contributed to that program. The amount of work that's gone into that has been significant. There's a range of papers which are produced, but it's the face-to-face briefings that really bring that to life. And I know that was in part what was behind Adam and Bedham's determination to get out here despite the aircraft delays. You don't want to hear from me, you want to hear from Adam, but the Chief Minister obviously as well. So I will hand over to Adam now, and so.
Yep, thank you, Governor, and it's great to be back in St Elena for a third time. Almost didn't get here, and it's a bit of a shame because we were going to have a week, so we didn't get to meet all the stakeholders and people we hoped to meet, so apologies to those we didn't get to meet over the curtailed 3-4 days. It's a pleasure and honour to come back to St Elena, and every time I come back here, I remember why I love St Elena just a little bit more. It's also important, you know, as the Governor says, seeing is believing, understand what's going on the ground, and also just actually, you know, I think it's important for us to be here, to be accountable to the people and the politicians in St Elena, just to understand, you know, what's happening so there's no misapprehensions. Like the Governor, I want to thank the Chief Minister and Ministerial team, the public service, and everyone who's given us a really warm welcome. And thank you. And we've had some really good, frank chats over the week. And this visit comes on the back of a really good visit from the Chief Minister and Minister Henry to London to Joint Ministerial Council. There's some really good political engagement there. And I would say things have changed over the last year. You had, particularly with the overseas territories, at the Her Late Majesty's funeral, then the King's coronation. You know, people have seen the overseas territories sat in front of presidents of ex-country, you know, to have the special role and place they have in the UK. Over this week, we spent a lot of time with the Chief Minister and her team, the public service. We've been looking at the pressures and opportunities facing the island. But also we've done deep dives on things like health, education, tourism. But we've also spent time with businesses, state-owned enterprises, members of PTAs, Parent Teacher Association, the CPA. And I think it's really important every time we come here just to underline that, you know, the ministerial system is new, but we are 100% committed to making that work. So what's changed, you might say? So we're not here, as it might felt like in previous years, saying you must spend or can't spend money on X, Y, and Z. We are very clear, but that is for the ministerial team in St Elena to decide the priorities and how to allocate. We provide an envelope of makes about 65 to 70% of the annual budget, recurrent budget in St Elena. But very clear that's ministers deciding how to apportion that, so it's local decisions and local accountability. Last year, the UK contribution went up to just under 33.1 million. It was 33.06. So that's almost double what it was in 2014 when it was 17.5. One of the other things, though, we're trying to do is make the most of other funding pots we can work with sort of St Elena. So a good example of that is the funding we provide for the Blue Belt, which St Helena does amazing things with. Also, but the UK HSA supports the health service, Maritime Coast Guard Agency supports the police. We're trying to make sure we can tap into all of those pot because it's just a bit more than the Foreign Office. We are here to listen. We're here to gather evidence and make the very best case for St Helena. I feel actually we are Team St Helena, and actually I'll give you that commitment when we go back. We are there banging the drum for St Helena, and not a day goes by where I don't speak to the Governor on the phone, and very often with the Chief Minister. In terms of next steps, we're going back and making that case to our ministers about the needs on the ground and what we see in St Helena, but also how we can add that added value and work with the Chief Minister and their team. We've seen some really good progress since the last visit, and I think notably on the £30 million capital programme. And what we've seen with ministers is the Ministerial System here moving forward those long-standing projects that we want to get done. Went to see Rupert's Bay. It's almost going to be complete. I don't think any of us actually believe that's going to happen for quite a while. Field Road, the prison, and I say the prison extension, plus the new prison. I think the tender's gone out for the prison. We saw that the CT scanner is going to arrive soon, a new one, the water treatment plant. These are all things that it's important that we make progress on. That money is there to be spent. We've got to spend it. So we share the Minister's desire also to switch the island to renewable energy. And I think that's important, not just for the brand of St Helena, but also the shocks we're going to see and have seen over the last few years. But seeing those movements beyond that, working with the ministerial team here in the Governor's Office, so the capital programme, not only seeing the projects on the ground work, but within the St Helena Government helping develop the Project Management Office, PMO. I think building that expertise in St Helena so you can get those projects moving forward. Telecoms, brilliant progress. That's potentially going to be transformational, seeing that happen. Health, so we provide support for the UK's Health Security Agency. The difference, I would say, is how St Helena runs with that. Not every overseas territory has been as receptive to that support, but St Helena's really embraced it. And what we see happening in St Helena on the preventative health care, sort of the screening, the diagnosis, the outreach in the community is really, really good stuff, and we want to show that to the other territories. So thank you to the health team for that. We've had frank chats about the challenges the island's going through, particularly as you're opening up from COVID. It feels like we're still there. One of the areas we've all, I think, a shared kind of sense of urgency on is immigration. And I think there's lots of chat in the community about the decreasing working age population. I think if I remember the estimates are you need around 40 new people a year just to maintain the existing population. That's not even to grow the population and the working age. I think we're well aware of the the challenges, but also we've been looking a lot with the ministerial team on the opportunities. We very much support the Chief Minister and ministerial team's vision for a brand of St Helena, and I think that's important. So you have everything hinges around the brand of St Helena and has to be consistent with it around the things on the environment, renewable energy, the sectors to grow. I think that's really important, and we support that. Also, just pay credit to the St Helena Government and the public service for all they deliver. If you look at a local government unit of the same size in the UK, they don't have to run a prison, they don't have to run an air service, a shipping contract, just the vast swathes of skills they have to retain in a small public service is really impressive. And thank you for all the work they've put into this week. If I can be quite frank, St Helena has a habit of talking itself down. And there are lots of challenges in Ireland, we're not oblivious to those. But not only we've seen some really good work in the public service, but sort of little pockets of excellence across the island, about what St Helena punches way above its weight on sort of the green agenda and conservation and research there, but also in the economy. There's little sectors of pop-up exciting businesses, and just I think the challenge to you in the community is how you celebrate that and go forward on that. So I really think there St Helena can hold its head up with pride. But you have a commitment to us to keep working with the Chief Minister, the Governor, the ministerial team, the public service to support St Helena going forward. And thank you for the very warm welcome we've received this week.
Well, with that said, with fear of repeating the same things over and over, I would just like to thank Adam and Ben, of course, for coming to St Helena. I know you had your struggles getting here this time, but maybe that's all part of the package to see the pain that we have to suffer at times. It's been a brilliant week. Yes, there's been some frank discussions, but it's a chance for us to continue to strengthen the relationship, which I will say, I feel that St Helena is really privileged. I think FCDO does quite a lot of work in advocating for us when we're back here on St Helena. I'd also like to pay homage as well to our UK representative, Kettle, because she does a lot of work in the halls of UK government. So between them, they obviously keep the cogs turning in the UK. But one of the huge things I think FCDO requested, and the overseas territories as a whole would like to see more of, and that is building how we communicate with the UK government in its entirety. So more relationships with the UK ministers. That's now being achieved as well. So now we need to utilise that foot through the door, if I can call it that. But if I focus more on what's been achieved in this week, as everyone has said before me, it's been really busy, and hats off to Adam and Ben for keeping their eyes open, because they've hit the ground running, but also to the teams, because obviously with everything that changes when a flight is delayed, or St Helena is so used to having to change at last minute, and I think we've done a great job in doing that. So thanks to the public service, thanks also to elected members, but I will obviously do a huge shout out to my ministers, because it's not been an easy week trying to ensure that in the short time they all have the opportunity to let FCDO know from a portfolio perspective, but also from a holistic ministerial vision, what it is that we're hoping to achieve for St Helena. The community will hear that we've said for some time now we're working towards effective infrastructure. Adam made mention of quite a few of those, telecoms, obviously renewable energy is very much the next baby, access is something we're working on, shipping contracts, obviously looking at the extension of air access as well is another one. But the core services that I think we've focused on quite a lot this week is indeed health, and as Adam has rightly said, UK HSA has done wonders with St Helena, and the health service here has done a great service, and I must say health and social care, in utilising all the opportunities that is provided to them. Minister Henry has now had that exposure recently as well to see firsthand, and it's all about bringing the knowledge about St Helena and what our strengths are, as Adam has said, but the opportunities and challenges. Very closely behind health at the moment is the need for education to be looked at. We all acknowledge, I think, how important it is that we focus on education at the moment. I will publicly say that part of the ministerial team, when we came in, health was in extreme conditions, and we pushed quite a lot of our focus towards health. Now that we've got the support, and there's lots of work still to do because we want to move to preventative health care, the next focus is indeed education. But to keep funding all these core services, we need to also look at how we grow the population so that we can grow the economy, because at the moment we're trying to use the same money to do more with, and it's becoming a bit of a struggle. So tourism is important for us, but financial services and what we need to do there, sometimes, which we've put forward to the team, is that we need to spend now to save later, and it's important to do that so that it doesn't get worse. And there's areas, knowing St Helena is so small, that we don't have a whole lot of land resource, for instance. So looking at financial services, etc., is the way to go for St Helena, because we are not then obviously competing with our blue and green agenda that's got us on the stage, the world stage, if I can put it that way. So I am obviously conscious that we want questions to be asked, so I won't continue, but I do know that we will be pushing to get brand St Helena out there so that the entire community understands what our priorities are and what will be the areas we'll be focusing on. We constantly keep saying it, but I think brand St Helena will make it very much a reality as to how we'd like to move St Helena forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Minister. Thank you, Adam. The floor is open to questions.
Thank you for the introductions. Seems like it was a very busy week, hopefully a very productive week as well. One of the big concerns, and Adam did mention this as well, on St Helena currently is continuing decline of our working age population. Young people and young families are leaving the island for what they describe as bad opportunities elsewhere. It's not a secret that there is much more money to be made in other nations, and sometimes people leave not because of want, but because of need. If they stay, they cannot afford to build a house, they cannot afford probably the quality of life that we're looking for. Because wages here just do not compare with other countries and territories. Tell me about the discussions that have been held this week between SHG and FCBO regarding this massive concern for the island, and talk me through the plan of action, how the financial aid settlement for next year will to address the current and continuing negative trend with regards to our population.
Okay, so I'll start, and then I'm sure we will punch in. So obviously, the immigration policies is one that we're working on right now. And Minister Alec has publicly said this, that he's hoping that we could have a new immigration policy in force and implemented by April of next year. This is so important for the reasons Adam just mentioned as well. To be able to sustain our current population, we need 40 people minimum to be coming into St Elena. To grow the economy, we need loads more. But as we are trying to attract more people, we also need to do work to retain the people that have stayed the distance, because that is so, so important. You are correct, Liam. We've seen young people leaving, families leaving, which is really concerning, because when you see individuals leave, it's a likelihood they'll return. But when you see the entire family leaving, that's more of a concern. I think we've recognized that from the time we got into government. Hence, it's about effective infrastructure. So connectivity has improved. We've not finished. We would like to go, but it's a massive improvement. We've got unlimited access to internet, which is something St Elena has never known before. The next one is renewable energy. I know people get frustrated because it's taking a while, but we need to plan properly, because we don't want to spend money and then not achieve the outcomes that is there. But health, when people move and live in different places, they do want to have a secure health service and an education service. I think the attractiveness in what St Elena offers naturally is there. It's the service delivery that we need to improve upon. Affordable living, of course, is something we look at, but I think if we look further afield, cost of living worldwide at the moment is hitting everybody. So I think it's important that we build an enabling environment. So core services needs to be bolstered, if I can put it that way, and then we'll be looking at areas whereby we can then grow the economy and make it an enabling environment for people to want to invest in. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, Chief Minister, I think this is something small island communities around the world are facing. And for me, I don't think you ever should stop people leaving. It's more of a question, can you attract them to come back? I mean, I didn't stay in a small town. I grew up in the UK. You want to go out and get new skills and experiences around the world. And you almost want to create, as the Chief Minister says, almost an enabling environment where people can see they can come and get good healthcare, good education, but not just stuff within the government. You know, they can know it's a place they can start a business, somewhere that there is the opportunity to have that freedom to succeed and maybe fail. Immigration, yes, and the government's doing work on this. I think you have many benefits and downfalls of being a small community. But as a small community, you can come together and have that national discussion about what you want to do on immigration. So I think that's something you're all going to have to do. And one of the things we've been talking about with the Chief Minister team is that balance in spending in the budget between sort of day-to-day basic good services versus having that space and time to think strategically about, are there those opportunities to take forward and differences, and you can kind of get ahead of the curve almost.
Yes.
I think I just had a couple of remarks, really. I think we've touched on this, but it's about how do we work together. The government agencies, for want of a better expression, state-owned agencies working together with government for the benefit of St Elena. And it's where do we find the right balance point in that? I think there's been some useful discussion on that this week. But I think we also need to reflect on the work that has been achieved. There's some really, really good things been done in the past year. It's not as though it's Jan tomorrow. There's some really positive outcomes that have come through. But yes, you need to have a plan. And I think the Chief Minister and her cabinet have sought to develop that. The public service is putting the effort into informing that to try and take it forward. But then there's the support that we rely upon externally. And I think I would comment, Adam in his comments mentioned Bluebelt, but there's Darwin funding, there's CSSF funding, there's the external support that comes in, where again, we are able to help work with one another to move forward. It is about working as a team, St Elena, collegiately rather than independently. And all I will say is, a year and nearly 6 months into this appointment, there is a real sense of team, and that is something that I think is the only way we're going to succeed, frankly, and strengthening that, but upskilling as well, but that requires that we also get the support that we need, and we're very grateful to Adam and his team for the work we get from him and his colleagues in London. It's not just Adam. I know we all think it's just Adam, but it's not just Adam.
And Scotland, not just London either.
And not, yeah, there you go, the UK in general.
Yes, for many years, at least for 25 years, we have been talking about having a 3-year budget or aid budget from UK, which obviously would improve planning on the island and would improve democracy because you get greater independence if you know what's going to happen tomorrow. So this year we are again talking about a 1-year budget. Is that, have I understood it correct, or what ambitions do you have to make a 3-year budget?
Yeah, so it's definitely an ambition we want to get there. So last year we got the increase, and what we said was should be able to keep that going across 2 years. In the UK, we're at the end of a parliament, so we're going into an election. So the challenge for me and my team now is to make sure that we're working with the Chief Minister and the Governor and the Public Service to get that case together, so we can, a new government or existing government coming in on a new mandate, make sure that they are there and we can get that stability for as long as forward. The other thing we have done, just to give a bit of stability going beyond the financial aid budget, is the £30 million capital programme. And if we're really blunt, it has been a struggle to get that off the ground, to get that moving. But getting that going over several years is important because you get that pipeline of projects, and that's particularly important for local contractors on the ground. So they know that there is that pipeline. And if we can then get that pipeline going and spend all of the £30 million, then we can look to go bid for more money to get more projects going. So I hear what you're saying, and it's an aspiration we work to, but we're not quite there yet.
I can't say anything more than what Adam says. We always put forward a request. It's always said that we'd like a 3-year budget, but we have to be careful how we push that as well, because if the UK government has other priorities, we wouldn't wish for them to give us a 3-year budget that actually isn't the most attractive for St Elena as well. So we have to be considerate of the financial climate beyond UK and St Elena as well. So we'll always ask, and we'll always set out why it would be important for the reasons you've just said, Mike. But I think it is the fact that sometimes, depending on the circumstances, it probably wouldn't always be a good news story for St Elena if, as you've just said, you've got different governments coming in, and with all the other strains being placed on the UK at the moment, it may not be the best outcome for St Elena, but we're always pushing for the long term because of the reasons you've just said.
Yeah, I think one thing that we are, and our ministers are clear about, and I think that's why it's very important that the Chief Minister and team and all of elected members in that engagement across Parliament is you have that cross-party support for St Helena, and other territories have had that broader base in Parliament. Kedal does a fantastic job working with parliamentarians across both houses, but it's building up that friends of St Helena, and also people just to know and understand a bit more about the place.
So no 3-year budget?
Not at this stage, no. Yeah, to be honest.
I think I'll probably get a similar answer that you just gave, Julie, but SHG and St Helena as a whole are always grateful for the financial support that we receive from the UK. It's no secret that each year we hear a similar excuse, for lack of a better word, from our leaders, which is the budget won't allow. We hear that quite often. There's often an initiative that seems like a good way to address an concern, but the response very often is we don't have the funds in the budget to do it. My question is, what discussions have taken place, and are there any actions that can be taken to kind of break that mold and finally get St Helena into a position economically we are able not just to get by, but actually move the island forward and take bigger strides in terms of development. And with this responsibility lie solely with SHG to increase revenue away from financial aid, or is there a responsibility for the UK government to also play a role and possibly invest more into St Helena?
both of us, isn't it?
It's a bit of, yeah, it's a bit of both. We don't stop asking, I can say that. And I'm always talking, I think I mentioned it in my introduction, that we're always getting FCGO on board to show that sometimes you need to spend now to save later. And both Ben and Adam will know that I've just been talking about that with the team today, that to be able to get some of these core services and all these core areas of priorities forward, we probably need some additional funding so that we can actually put us on a better trajectory, and then in a few years to come start looking at how can we reduce the reliance on FCDO. We're simply not there at this particular time. So the ask is there, but it's also about relationship building, as Adam has just said. It's not just about the financial aid that we get, it's about all the other programs that we can tap into as well. My ministerial team has been really busy this year. We've got Minister Sipiu off at the moment attending COP28. I don't know at this time, but I'm sure she's out there looking at areas or trying to identify areas whereby there could be additional funding from the green and blue agenda that we can tap into. If you look into the budget that we have now, although one of our strengths on St Elena is our blue and green agenda, when you look at how much of the reoccurring budget they actually get, it's very small compared to what they get from other sources. If I use the health and the support they're getting from UKHSA, that is really positive. Don't forget we had an additional 1.8 million for critical equipment last year. So I'm sure if we demonstrate that we're using those things to try and strengthen our infrastructure, there might be opportunities for that in the future as well. So I don't think, as much as we always are asked to produce different scenarios, I know for a fact that the FCDO team is always with us in fighting to sustain what we've got. The fact that we had an increase last year, I know some will say, well, it was only inflationary, but it was still an increase. And Adam mentioned how much that has built over a period of time. So I just think we need to just keep plodding on. And as you rightly said, if we can get some front-loading funding to try and get us forward, don't forget the whole world is trying to recover from COVID as well. So that's another thing that's pushed us back a bit, but the whole world went through that. I don't know if the Governor or Adam would like to add to that.
I'll just say a couple of words. Every country has to deal within the boundaries of what its economy can withstand. It's about how you prioritise and the decisions you make within that budget. For St Elena, with the Ministerial System, we've been clear, ministers decide how the budget that's available will be used. And that's how it should be. That's because accountability, based on democracy, is those who are elected to government make the decisions. And that's something that, I said in my inauguration speech, and it's been repeated here, we're doing everything possible to make the ministerial system work, because that's how you get the decision-making and accountability lined up. It would be wonderful if there was an endless pot of money. It's not the way it is. So it is about making those hard decisions, but the people making them should be the ones who are elected by the people here and who have the authority to make them. And that's why my team in the Governor's Office do everything we can to facilitate this system in delivering the clear direction of travel for the public service to operate upon.
Yeah, I think if we look back at the great hopes like tourism, and there's last year, or the current year we're in, there's a £50,000 tourism fund, which we've been working with the tourism office on that. But I think also we just need to think we're actually in the only St Elena's third real year of tourism with an airport, when you take out the pandemic and then the time in which the island was closed. These things don't happen overnight, but it's working out what the opportunities are, what we focus on, and where the UK can add value is not only on the budgetary aid, just the £30 million capital programme, but also just the expertise. St Elena's never ever going to have all of the expertise it needs, and there's lots of things we've done well and not so well in UK government. It's actually learning those lessons, be there on procurement, some of the stuff in the green and blue agenda. So it's kind of working out how we focus that in, because the other thing we have to accept is there is only so much capacity within St Helena for that assistance. And I notice it in lots of small island governments. All the bits of good intention help from the UK land on a couple of people's desks. So it's making sure that we're not swamping St Elena with love. It's making sure that we're targeting that and the things that the democratically elected leaders of St Helena wish to focus on.
Julie mentioned the blue and green agendas. Moving to more of a positive spin on it now. We've just been designated a hope spot, St Elena, which is brilliant. And also currently ongoing is the St Elena Cloud Forest project, which is a highly collaborative multi-year project. Many benefits. It's actually looking to save the UK's large remaining natural cloud forests. All these initiatives that's happened on, what can you say about them and how will they kind of improve St Elena as a travel destination and put us up there in terms of what we're doing on the blue and green agendas?
So I think this is part of the brand St Elena, and for the community, if you recall, Emma Weaver went out and got people's ideas and as to what made St Elena special for them. So brand St Elena is bringing them all together. I also did a St Helena event. Speaker Lindsay Hoyle was really, he helped and said, yes, you can use Speaker's House to do St Helena event. In that room that evening was near 100 people with interest in St Helena, people that have worked with us over the years, people who are currently working with us, but it also brought people in the room who could potentially help us in the future. I don't think it's any secret to anybody who knows me that blue and green is high on my personal agenda, and that's why it's being pushed through as well from all the ministerial team. And I think as we go away and when you see how other territories operate, we are really important, and I do think that right from the king down, if I can say that, he is very much about the blue-green agenda, and the overseas territories are going higher up the agenda as well because they think they see how important we are and building on that British family that we talk about. So I believe that it's a foot through the door because obviously the OTs are known. I mean, St Helena on its own has a third of the biodiversity here. So that captures people's attention, and then you can start talking about the other areas that we wish to develop. So it's always the key that kind of unlocks any door or opportunity that we may have.
Yeah, and just to add to what the Chief Minister said, I personally, my team are really excited about the cloud project. That's why we've been putting money into it over several years.
Yeah.
But the thing that is, it's a multifaceted, multi-benefit project. All the stuff on biodiversity, but also water resilience and tourism. It's win-win-win. The thing personally I really like about the Cloud Forest is when you go up there, you see the saints, the guys who've been managing a Cloud Forest for years, and I was really pleased when I went up last year, their voices coming to the fore. They're the experts who know about it. And you see a lot of the conservation team, you see the National Trust, they're saints. And it's bringing out that passion, the local expertise that exists in the community, and it's not because the UK government came riding in to save you from yourselves and an NGO told you what to care about. It's something that Saints have been caring about for a long time, but it's something where we can maybe add the technical support, but again, it's there because you had it, you knew you had it, and you knew to protect it, and it's something I like to showcase, and Kettle does a good job of that in the UK as well.
I'm struck that talking about St Elena is something that we all love doing, which means we have gone over time. It's rather nice that we've finished on something that's so positive, and it is positive, and thank you for asking that question, actually. But thank you very much indeed for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Chief Minister.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I already got one.
If you've got a question, we can get you an answer right.
Yeah, no. Well, we're on the same agenda, and it is the sustainability. The sustainability of the blue and green agenda, but also the sustainability of food production, on fishing, because what people are saying is that sometimes we look after the nature better than we look after our own people, and that's why our own people are leaving. The foundation pillars of our economy have always been set to be tourism, fishing, and agriculture. And how heavy has those topics been featuring in your discussions?
But it's, so one of the things we do have under the EDIT programme is a fund that's been put into increased agricultural production.
Yes.
But I think also you're right to raise the stuff around fishing, because actually the work on the Blue Belt, in a way, that's a lot of that focuses on conservation, but actually it's protecting the resource out there, understanding the stocks out there, which also gives it value as well. So I don't see this two as being contradictory, but I think we speak about this a lot, about the resilience of the island bit on renewable energy or actually food security. And I think the pandemic's brought that home to a lot of us about the need to increase food security on St Helena. And I know Minister Henry's very passionate about kind of increasing the availability of fresh food for health reasons as well.
So 380,000 was put into agriculture. So we're in the second year of that now. But a lot of the areas that you're talking about now, Mike, is to do with private sector engagement as well. So we, again, if we create the enabling environment, then we need the private sector now to obviously develop those areas as well.
Okay, good. But in ever-expanding government, doesn't help the private sector when we got a shrinking labour force.
In a way, but I do. When you say an ever-expanding government, we've just spoken about the amount of work, streams that we're trying to do to set up the effective infrastructure. And so we need those people and the resources. We're still shouting out actually about capacity and capability and the ability to have the expertise around the table as we try to sort out shipping. And as you said before, you know, you're talking about financial services and all those different areas. So it will need some expertise expansion, if I can say that, to get these things off the ground. So even if it's a short-term contract, to be able to create the enabling environment. So that is the main reason or primary objective of this government, is to try and set the scene so that the private sector can take the opportunity and seize it and go forward.
I think on that note, thank you very much for coming, everyone. Thanks to the panel for giving your time.
Thanks.
Thank you.